Okay, continuing on with our professionalism series and part 4 of our business meals series in particular. This is part 4 where we're going to focus on meal service. Okay, so to start with, you're going to have a server at most of your business meal restaurants. Okay, particularly in higher end restaurants, the service process is more formalized. You may even have a secondary server, two people helping, mainly for the purpose of bussing the table, removing crumbs, that type of things. But when you're seated, you're going to be greeted by your server. They're going to tell you their name. They're going to ask you if you have any questions about the menu. They're going to give you the specials of the day. Lots of times people go straight into looking at the menu rather than listening to the specials first. I highly recommend, for etiquette purposes, you, before picking up the menu, you listen to the server's instructions and entire spiel ahead of time. Oftentimes they will invite you to have a drink or a cocktail before dinner or anything like that, but oftentimes they'll wait until they return to the table with water or something like that before they ask you if you'd like any pre-meal beverages in that regard, or anything other than water. Okay, but in any event, it is to be expected that they will come back in some order, either prior to or after delivering water, and ask you if you would like a pre-meal drink, right? Okay, on the menu, you're going to see primarily things organized into appetizers, soup and salad at the very beginning. After that, smaller courses, then main courses, and then generally for whatever the restaurant is known, you're going to have the other things. So if it's a steak restaurant, you might have other things at the very end, at the lower portion of the menu, followed immediately at the bottom by your different side items that you can choose from. So being aware of the side items ahead of time, having read ahead on the menu and not seeming as if you're lost when reading a menu, is an aspect of professionalism, right? It's an aspect of etiquette that is once again associated with professionalism, of having done this type of thing in a restaurant before. All right, so anyway, after you've given your drink order, normally you will then begin to look at the menu and make decisions about whether there should be an appetizer for the table type scenario. Well, actually, often that decision is made collectively in group after people have at least made some level of decision about their entree. Generally, once people have decided on their entree and you know whether you're getting soup and salad or soup or salad type scenario, then someone will throw out which appetizers they would prefer for the table, and that order will come from one person rather than individuals collectively. In a higher end, higher quality restaurant, generally everyone will order an appetizer for themselves. So rather than group appetizers the way it is in mid-level and lower level restaurants, appetizers tend to be individual appetizers in high-end restaurants. So the food service will come out in orders. Generally, you'll have your drink order, but after that, you'll order soup, salad, main course, then appetizer. But the order of service will be appetizer. Okay. Once the appetizer is finished for the table, you'll be presented with soup, then salad course. If people mix and order soup and salad, oftentimes they will bring that out together. In a higher end formal restaurant, they'll keep the courses separate. Okay, but in a mid-tier and lower restaurant, they'll bring soup and salads out together for those who order it. They'll also bring bread at the same time that they bring the soup and salad. Okay, some restaurants will, when they bring the water, they'll bring bread, but generally, like I said, it's the bread at the same time as the soup and salad appetizer. Okay, once again, there's the main course. Things to consider are if it's pasta, what type of pasta you like. Oftentimes in a higher end restaurant, they'll ask you whether you'd like it al dente or fully cooked. Meat temperature, that is an important thing if you're going to have beef in particular, but also pork or lamb. How do you like the How do you like it cooked? Fish as well, particularly when you're having things rare seared. So be specific about that, and understand that they are going to ask you about that. If it's particular types of meat, they will oftentimes have other questions about cuts of meat and sauces. Just a thing to remember, in high-end restaurants, sauces that you add yourself are generally does not show a great deal of etiquette. Okay, so generally, if you have a sauce that's cooked in, that's a chef prepared sauce, that's fine. But separate sauce like ketchup or something like that is less appropriate. Okay, that type of thing. So just keep that in mind. A common thing you'll see is people ask for a steak sauce or jelly with a fish type scenario, and that's generally seen as a lower class type thing to do. While I don't ascribe to that level of thinking, certainly it is something to be aware of, that it is perceived in terms of etiquette and can relate to professionalism as well. Okay, once the plates are cleared is when they'll pass out the dessert menus. Once again, the dessert menus, it is the higher end restaurant, the less appropriate it is to share. Okay, and mid-tier and lower end restaurants is that's a more popular thing to do. Okay, now throughout the meal, before they serve the soup and salad course, they will ask you whether you have a wine order to go along with your meal, or if you have courses of meal, as we discussed, particularly if you have courses of entree. They'll ask you if you want wine service with that. They'll oftentimes have a recommendation for wine service with that. If there is a bottle of wine for the table, rather than individual glasses, the server will bring the bottle to the individual ordering it, present it. You say it looks okay. They'll use their wine key to cut the foil around the top, uncork it, all the time showing you the label the whole time. They'll pull the cork. They will give you the cork so you can look, the thing you're looking for, to see if the wine has soaked down the cork. If it has, it's gotten too much air in it, and that can be a problem, but generally it's fine. Oftentimes you'll also smell a cork to see if it smells fine, but then they'll pour a small bit in your glass. You pick it up, shake it to get the aroma, make sure it doesn't smell soured or any problem with it at all, and taste it and see if it anything wrong with it. You're not tasting it to see if you like the wine, you're tasting it to make certain it has not gone bad. Okay, as long as it's has not gone bad, you approve it. They go around clockwise the table and serve all the ladies first, pouring their glass. Then they come back around and serve all, make a second round and serve all the men and fill up the host's or the ordering individual's glass last. Okay, the bottle will then be placed on the table. If it's a white wine bottle, generally they'll set up an ice bucket beside the table, wrap the top right around the neck with a towel, and lay it in the ice bucket. And that towel is once again just what they'll use to wipe off any condensation or wetness when they're pouring later. Red wine bottle will oftentimes go right on the table. Don't be surprised if you see the individual pour the wine by putting their thumb in the bottom of the wine bottle in the little indention and holding the wine bottle in their hand. Okay, in lower scale restaurants, they'll hold it normal, like around the body or of the bottle and pour, but you'll see them turn at the end of it to stop drips. Okay, and don't be surprised as well if they have a napkin scraper, that breadcrumb scraper that in between courses they scrape up the crumbs and get them off the table in front of you. Okay, they will generally serve from the right and clear from the left of the table of where you're seated for your plates. And then we've talked about in a different video to signal to them that you're done with one course or a set of plates. You put the applicable silverware at parallel in the on the plate pointing towards the top, and that signals to the server to come clear your plate from there. Okay, and then after, once again, they'll ask for coffee service to go along with the dessert, if that's something you want. And after the dessert is done, they'll oftentimes ask you, do you want an after dinner beverage? If no, then they'll bring the check. Generally, checks are not split up unless you specifically request that to be done ahead of time. So expect, if you don't ask for it to be requested ahead of time. In a business meal, oftentimes the host is going to pick up the check anyway, so it's not an issue at that point. So anyway, that's a lot on business meals, and there are lots of videos out there that break these individual aspects down, but these are some good points for you to remember to show professional etiquette during a business meal.